Today, we're going to install some Powerbase speakers in the Chevy Silverado. The speakers from Powerbase are a direct fit, so they'll be easy to install. First, let's check out what tools we need. First, you'll need a 7mm socket and ratchet, a small flat blade screwdriver, a large flat blade screwdriver, a small 7mm wrench, a magnetic pickup claw, and a 10mm socket. Starting with the driver's door, go ahead and remove this top panel here and remove a 7mm bolt. Next, remove these two 7mm bolts below the door. Using a small flat blade screwdriver, insert it into the little crevice and pull upwards. You'll now find two more 7mm bolts to remove. Here I'm using a pickup tool to remove this bolt from the area. Here I have a bit with a 7mm magnetic pickup inside. Next, using your hands, remove this panel by pulling it outwards from the bottom and across. There's a bolt in here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's also a 7mm. You must remove that bolt. You can also use your pickup claw tool if you have that available. Now that all the bolts are removed, let's start in the bottom right-hand corner and pull outwards. The door is held in by very strong clips. As you can tell here, I'm kind of struggling with it, but just keep working at it and the clips will release. Once you get the door released, there's a little tab in the back. Press it down, pull back, and swing it outwards, and that will release the ball from the area. There's a small pressure-fitted clip, as you can see here in the bottom right corner. Pull that out, and then with this Molex plug, push down the tab and lift up the lever, and that will release the Molex plug from the area. The guys over at Powerbase sent these speakers over. They are a direct OEM fit for the Silverado. I called them up and asked them to send them down because they're very DIY friendly, and because of the sensitivity numbers, they can be powered by a stock stereo, or you can add an amplifier to get them really going. These are the 6.5 for the rear doors, and as you can tell, they are pre-mounted and pre-wired for an easy installation. Let's also take a look at the front speakers they sent me. The front speakers are a two-way component system as a 6x9 woofer and a 2.75 high bandwidth mid-range speaker to cover all of your frequency spectrums. Let's go ahead and install these speakers now and talk more about them later. Using a 7mm socket, remove one bolt from the top of the speaker. Use your hands or a small flat blade screwdriver to pull the speaker out. Lift up to remove it from the area. Remove this one pressure-fitted clip and remove the Molex plug by pressing the tab in and pulling outwards. This one gave me kind of a hard time, but eventually I got it out. Here's a look at the stock paper cone speaker. Let's open up the front component set here. Looks like we got some swag. Powerbase sticker. Maybe I'll put on my heat shrink here. Man, my heat shrink is a mess. I need to clean that thing up. It's all over the place. Powerbase sticker for your car. Instruction manual. Won't need that. You have me. Powerbase promotions here. These speakers come with an extension harness if the factory length is not long enough to reach the factory speakers. But for this installation, I didn't need them. This is the high bandwidth mid-range that we will install later. Here's our 6x9 woofer. The first thing I can tell you is that it's made from a polypropylene material. This can be much stronger than your stock factory paper cone material. And this is also the 4-ohm model. If you have the premium system with the Bose, you're going to want to use a 2-ohm model. Below in the description area, I'll tell you exactly which model you need for what Silverado you have. As you can tell here, it's also much better than your stock speakers because it can handle much more power. So here's something that kind of caught me off guard, in that these power-based speaker adapters are made extremely well. Most aftermarket adapters from the big companies are really thin and flimsy. This adapter is very rigid and has curves to cut down on adapter vibration. As you can tell here, the factory speaker has foam in the front to cut down on vibration and to get all the sound into the vehicle. The more solid a speaker adapter is, the better bass response you're going to get from the speaker. I usually don't rant about these kind of things, but I've obviously never seen a speaker adapter made so well from a company other than the factory speaker adapter. And that's also really impressive at this price point of these speakers. All right, enough bragging. Let's get down to the installation. So just go ahead and plug it in. It only fits one way. And then with that pressure fitted clip, there's also a space for it to go right in the speaker adapter, just like the factory. Go ahead and insert it. Push down as hard as you can. Now put the speaker in, bottom first. Push it down and forward. And use your 7mm bolt to secure it. That simple. I would test it to make sure it's working by cycling the key on. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and screw it down and move on to the next step. So before we move to the next door, we're going to put the tweeter in. To do that, start by pulling this weather stripping down from the side here, this A-pillar. This A-pillar has a couple of clips behind it, but there's this one part right here you have to push down and out to release. Let's make our way over to the other side and remove these two panel pieces from this area. Here I use a small flat blade screwdriver that worked best. If your vehicle has the tweeters in the A-pillar, it's going to be a little bit different for you. And hopefully I'll have a video in the future. But for now, good luck. Using a 10mm ratchet in a socket, remove the two bolts from the A-pillar. Be careful of the window. Pull this piece out. Be careful, there is airbags back there. Now that you have that piece out, you can start to remove the trim piece that holds the tweeters in. Sorry for the bad angles. It's kind of hard to hold this camera while I'm trying to remove the panel pieces here. But go across the whole entire front of the panel and pull all the clips out. Here you'll find this little light dimmer module. Go ahead and rotate it, and then you'll be able to remove it. So this part is really a pain in the butt if you don't have the right tool, which I assume you will not, because I do have it, but it's a very specialty tool that usually only car audio installers have. So for the bottom, I was able to use a 7mm nut driver. And then I use my fingers just to remove the last part of it. Now the top is ridiculous. You have to use a small 7mm wrench. It's the only thing that will fit. 4 hours later, once you have removed the bolt, go ahead and remove this Molex plug from the tweeter by pressing down the tab and pulling backwards. Here's a look at the stock tweeter, paper cone, and here's our new OEM direct fit tweeter. As you can tell, the mounting brackets are exactly the same, and the Molex plug is exactly the same as the factory, so it's an easy plug and direct fit. The Powerbase version seems to have a lot better cone material. This is an A-B comparison here. Go ahead and plug in this Molex plug here. Again, sorry for the camera angles, one-handed. And remove the band-aids from your finger from earlier and go ahead and screw in these bolts here. Why does Chevy do this to us? Okay, as you can tell here, I'm using that 7mm wrench, that small one that takes 10 years to bolt down. But just like your mother, it gets the job done. And let's go to the other side and do the speaker. If you are curious what tool I actually use when I do these kind of things, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can check it out. It's basically like a right angle screwdriver, but it's very low profile and gets into small crevices. Like your sister. Okay, so go ahead and make sure the speakers work correctly by testing them. And put this top panel piece back on. And don't forget the light sensitivity sensor. Make sure to put some pressure on those clips and get them all seated correctly. all the way across the dash. Let's go ahead and put the A-pillar back on. There's a couple of clips there. And don't forget the weather stripping. As you can tell here, to put it back on, you have to hold it real close and slide that black piece in and then push it back into position. Same thing with the other side. Put the two 10mm bolts back in. Through the power of editing, 19 times the speed. Put these trim piece panels back in. And put the weather stripping in. Make sure when you put it back in that the weather stripping goes back over the fabric here. Don't leave the job half done like Circuit City, okay? So now let's install the other 6x9 speaker on the other side. The door's been removed already since I went over that already. Push that pressure fitted clip in, connect the Molex plug, put the speaker in a downwards position, and push forward, and put the 7mm bolt into position. Putting these doors back on is actually kind of tricky. What you want to do is get a large flat blade screwdriver, insert it into this area here, and kind of rotate it back and forth until you release these clips from the back of the door. You want to get this weather stripping off of the door itself. So take all the clips off and insert them into the door like so. Here, let me give you a better close-up of it. There's little like grooves in here. Every other one. See, no, yes, no, yes. Super simple, right? So grab these clips and insert them like so. And try to center them as best as possible. And do this through the whole entire door track. Now this furry side is going to face out, and the thin lip is going to face upwards. Now you're going to put this door molding on top of the door sill here. Just go ahead and watch. Remember, furry side out. Don't mess it up. This is your only chance. Lip up. Start from the right corner and just work your way across and push downwards. If you have a little bit too much left over on the left side, that means you didn't go over to the right enough. So keep pushing it down to make sure it's in place. As we're going to put the back of the door on, make sure this pressure fitted clip goes to where it was before. It goes right into the door right there. Okay? Go ahead and reconnect that Molex plug, which is a pain in the butt, man. It's hard to see, so you basically got to feel for it. I got it on the first try perfectly, but on the other door, it took me forever to get it back on. Okay, so put this door handle clip here. Just same thing as before, push in, slide it around, and push the tab in. Insert this door lock rod into the hole here, and then push the door onto the track. Remember, this is not a door that goes on top of a track and goes down. It's more like it goes on and just forward to clip it in. And work your way all the way down the door. Once you're done with that, go ahead and install the 7mm bolt there and the other 7mm bolt right there in the door handle. Or the two bolts there. Put the armrest trim piece back on right here. And then also the door handle trim piece. Be careful when putting the screw in. You don't want to lose it. This is when it's best to have that magnetic pickup tool built into the bit. One of my clips got lost or stuck in this little door handle here, so I pulled it back out and I inserted it back on the back of this panel here. Start from the top and push the bottom in. Next, grab the two screws that were taken from the bottom of the door panel and insert them. After you're done, make sure to check the doors to make sure they lock and unlock correctly with that little door lock rod, okay? It's a big deal right there. Sometimes they don't line up right and you have to kind of rework them in. Now that that's done, let's move on to the rear doors. Here's our Powerbase 6.5s for the rear. They're a coaxial design, meaning the tweeter is mounted directly onto the woofer, as opposed to the components, where the components are separate, woofer and tweeter. The rear doors are just like the front doors, only slightly nothing different. But here's a video of them anyways. Remove that trim piece with the small flat blade screwdriver. It fits right in that little pocket right there. Using a 7mm bit, go ahead and remove that bolt. Same thing with this arm panel piece here. Remove 2 7mm bolts from the area. I think there's also only one bolt here under the door. Starting from the bottom right, pull outwards to release the clips and work your way around the door. Be careful not to put too much pressure on that door rod handle on top left there. You don't want to bend the rod. It is bendable back, but it's easier not to bend it in the first place. There's also one Molex plug that you need to disconnect along with the pressure-fitted clip to remove the door. This Molex plug is so hard to put back into the door when you're done, but unlike your father, I believe in you. Last thing, pull down the tab and remove that door handle piece. Let's go ahead and open this box up and install these speakers. So I already removed the factory speaker, super simple, same 7mm bolt, and removing the factory Molex plug. So we have our new one here. Go ahead and push in this pressure-fitted clip and plug in this harness. That simple. Those magnets are like twice the size, or like 3 times the size of the factory OEM one. So it'd be nice to try some, maybe next time I'll put an aftermarket amplifier on there, a Powerbase one maybe, and we'll see how they sound with those too. Go ahead and put in the 7mm bolt, and that side is all done. Do the same thing with the other side, and your installation is finished. After I turned the speakers on, they actually sounded pretty dang good. I got pretty good bass response from them, and the highs were also very pleasant to listen to. They didn't really hurt my ears. They were bright without being really harsh, and the bass was punchy without being overly boomy. Okay, so I think I showed you guys this trick in the beginning for the front speakers, and the same applies to the rear speakers. In fact, I think this is the same video as the front speakers. I'm just showing you for the rears. A little editing video magic here. For you guys who did not see that part and totally skipped it, I'm just showing you how to put the door jack back on using these little panels here. So when you take those clips off, you want to put those clips in the grooves here. See that one, no groove? That one has a groove. So you take all the clips off and you push them inside here. I think they only fit one way, if I'm correct here, but I'm probably not, so just be careful. Try to center them as best as possible. It'll make it easier to push the door on. So the fur faces out, away from you, and that skinny little lip is up. And then from right to left, insert this weather piece into the door track right here. If you find you have some left over on the right or left-hand side, it means you didn't line it up correctly, and just take it up and then try it again. Remember, fur out, away from you, and lip up. Actually, I think this is the rear door. I may have filmed it twice for you guys, just to get through your thick skulls. These speakers are so easy to install, even your grandma can do it. Maybe not Jimmy's grandma, she only has one hand. But most of your grandmas can do it. So get out there and buy some Powerbase speakers and put them in.